Welcome, everyone, to the Over Under Movies podcast, the show where we take a prominent film or franchise in the world of filmmaking and ask the simple question, is it overrated or is it underrated? I am here, joined as always by my good friend, the Ned Schneebly to my Dewey Finn, or perhaps the Mike White to my Jack Black. It's Mr. Dylan DeAngelis.
You're stealing my bit. This is my intro. This is how I
thought you wanted it uniform. I thought we were supposed to do this.
It's fine.
All right, I'll do something else. I'm here joined as always by this really controlling guy.
I'm here joined by this fucking bald dude.
Is this the first time they're seeing you with your new bald head?
Yeah, it's great. The hair was getting out of control. For anybody watching us on YouTube, it was getting out of control. I had to step in.
Yeah. No, it looks good. I'm very happy with the new look. And yeah, if you're not watching on YouTube, just know that you can. And you'll also see a third person in our studio today. We are joined by a dear old friend. She is an artist, a teacher, and an inspiration. It's Miss Becka Warfel. Yay. Hi, Becca. Tell us about yourself.
Hi. Well, as you just said, I am an inspiration. So we'll start with that. No.
It may or may not be like midnight right now.
Check.
But listen, we're powering
12:13.
Yeah, we're powering through. This is like up there with our most sleep deprived recordings we've done so far for the pod.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be killer.
Jason, what are we talking about today?
Well, like I alluded to in the intro there, we are talking about
what intro?
Richard Linklater.
I'm editing this podcast. That intro's gone.
Cold open.
We're talking about Richard Linklater's School of Rock, the 2003 comedy film starring Jack Black.
And a bunch of children.
And a bunch of kids. John Cusack, Sarah Silverman, isn't it? With not a lot to do, but it's a good, fun movie. We're going to be arguing about it today. Becca, this was your idea to talk about this one. Why don't you tell us what this movie means to you? Why'd you bring it to us to talk about on the pod?
Well, initially I was thinking, Jack Black, one of my favorite actors, musicians, comedians in general. And then I immediately thought of how School of Rock was probably my favorite one of what his movies are. Definitely nostalgic because I watched it several times growing up. That was my kind of humor. It helped develop my sense of humor for sure.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, not only is this your favorite Jack Black movie, it's also Jack Black's favorite Jack Black movie.
He knows what's up.
He said recently that he is aware that this will probably be the film that they put on his tombstone. Jack Black, he was in School of Rock, and he is happy with that legacy. This is also the film that kind of launched his career as a leading man. So basically, it follows this guy who's a real schlub that doesn't do anything. He's unemployed. He was in a rock band, but he gets kicked out at the beginning of the movie.
For being too cool.
For being too cool. And then his roommate's girlfriend is like, this guy hasn't paid rent in several months. He has to pay us or leave. So he has to figure out how to get some money. And what he does is he starts substitute teaching at a school because his roommate is a substitute teacher, and he intercepts a call so that he can take that job instead.
Ned Schneebly.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a great setup for a movie, right? Because the movie is Jack Black and all of these kids, and he looks at the kids and he's like, oh, there's my new rock band. At first,
it's not immediate.
Yeah, at first he was completely tuned out, which, let's be realistic starting out here. They would have caught on to him in 2 seconds. That this guy, because it's not just a regular school that he's substitute teaching at. It's this high level prep elementary school. They say multiple times in the movie that the parents pay $15,000 a year for their kids to go there. So all of them are preppy, uppity kids. They're wearing their school uniforms and shit. And he gets in there and he doesn't care at all. He's like, I'm just cashing checks. I'm not teaching these kids.
Yeah.
I'm just falling asleep. And then he sees them in a music class and he sees that they can all play instruments. It's a little manipulative on his part, right? He's like, oh, I can use these kids
yeah, it's
for my own gains. And it's meant to be played as comedic and inspirational.
Yeah, so his goal is to win the Battle of the Bands competition. and he doesn't have a band to do it with, so he recruits these children, and then most of the film follows him teaching them about rock music, because they've grown up in like this classical music sort of setting. And he's like, no, guys, you got to listen to Zeppelin. You got to listen to AC/DC. So he converts like a classical guitar player into like a rock guitar player, a concert pianist into like a keyboard player. And he finds roles for every one of those students in his class and kind of turns them into a rock band so that they can go to this competition at the end of the film.
Including like the backstage people, like
stage crew.
Yeah, because the class is like 15, 20 kids, and obviously like a band has 6 people, 7 people at most. So the rest of them, he's like, yeah, hey, you guys are the roadies, and you other guys, like, you're the security detail.
And you're the groupies.
I didn't realize they calls them the groupies, and I'm like,
yeah.
You can't call them that.
Yeah, I don't think they would. I think they would write the line differently today.
I don't know.
You're the fans.
It's played off of as funny. So
yeah.
Or like the fan
the
girls.
reason it's inappropriate is because it's inappropriate.
Yeah, and then Miranda Cosgrove calls him out.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because the term groupie does not mean like just somebody who's like a huge fan of the band.
Not cheerleaders or
like
anything,
for example, my mom, Pam, friend of the show.
Hi, Pam.
she's a giant fan of the boy band BTS. I would not call her a groupie.
Right, because she hasn't slept with any of those Korean boys.
Yeah, I mean, despite her best efforts, no, she is not. If anybody from BTS is listening to this podcast,
Oh God.
Do you think your dad has given her a hall pass for the BTS boys?
absolutely not. I'd fucking break those Korean dudes in half.
Oh my God. That's the rundown of the film. Dylan, when did you first watch this? Were you a kid when you saw it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this movie came out, 2003? Mm-hmm. So we were like basically the same ages as these kids when this movie came out. All the child actors are like between the ages of like 10 and 13 in the film. For the kids that are playing the instruments, like they intentionally sought out like kids that were really skilled instrumentalists at that age range, like specifically like kids out of the Chicago area, which I think is like where like one of the School of Rock schools like originated from. School of Rock is now like franchised out. Like there's locations all over the country. I'm pretty sure there's one.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I think there's one in Philadelphia.
That's really cool.
But like they're all over the place now. That's like how the movie ends. Is he like starts like a School of Rock school, like an after school program, which is fun. Which is obviously like the happy, like unrealistic movie ending, right? Because the real ending of this is this man gets arrested for child endangerment.
Especially after the scene with the parent-teacher night.
Yeah, we're skipping ahead a little bit here, but that's my favorite scene in the entire movie is the build-up comedy of him. He's doing the parent-teacher conference in a room of all of the parents and all the kids at the same time, and he's constantly looking into the hallway, and he looks back, and the camera cuts, and there's just one police officer. And then he looks back and there's 2 police officers. He looks back, there's 2 police officers and his roommate and his bitch girlfriend who's like now he knows what's up. And then the principal and like now he knows the jig is up. And yeah, he should have been
somehow
arrested.
Though he gets away.
Yeah, the police
with
just
the guitar.
The police just don't pursue him. Jack Black, he's the fastest man alive apparently. He can just outrun those cops.
It's a flame.
Yeah, I don't know how he did it because they had to do a hard cut from him in the class where he is kind of surrounded. And then it cuts to him way ahead of everyone else, and he gets away.
Well, I did read that the school that they use, it's some school in Staten Island that they use for like the sets, and they shot all the hallway sequences in one hallway in the school. So
yeah,
they had that one hallway to use.
Yeah, they didn't have free reign.
Anytime you see somebody running down the hallway, there's always like a hard cut to like them outside afterwards because they did not have access to the full building.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. It was a big building, so that makes sense.
It's really nice from the outside.
Dylan, you watched this as a kid. Did it like inspire you to become a rock star? Did you feel the same sort of energy that they did?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a bit of like a fantasy film for kids in that regard. I mean, I think any kid that grew up as like a creative person like would look up to like rock stars and be like, I want to do that one day. I know like I played drums like when I was younger. I didn't really stick with it. I know like when I was in high school, I did bass a little bit.
Yeah,
like
I remember that.
Like the dream of like being a rock star is like I think something that's in like a lot of kids' heads when they're younger that like ultimately, you know, most people don't stick with in any capacity. I know like you play guitar a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. And I remember you were in a band called the Square Root of -1 because the band was imaginary.
Yeah,
is that right?
It was a made-up band.
That's really funny. I did not know that either.
What about you, Becca? So obviously this movie is important to you, but did it inspire anything in you, like musically or creatively?
More comedically, I think. Definitely more comedically. It inspired my sense of humor. It was one of the movies that I quoted most often, I think, to people. And it's something that I bonded over my sister with. We rarely have things that we like in common. And that was one of the things that we definitely had in common. So that was nice. We just sing parts of their songs back and forth to each other. So that was good.
That's cool. Yeah. It is a really fun movie. I didn't watch this until like 2 years ago.
Oh, really? You didn't watch it when you were younger?
When I was a kid, I didn't catch it. Yeah. So if you were ever quoting it at me, I didn't know what you were talking about.
Because this was a Nickelodeon production. It was like
so much.
it was on TV a lot when we were younger.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have cable. No, I probably had cable in 2003. But
Brag about
for a
it.
while, I didn't. It might not have interested me that much for some reason. Like, I guess I liked like fantastical type of children's movies and stuff like that. Your Shreks, your Power Rangers. And so to just see like a bunch of kids in like stuffy uniforms, I don't think I got the sort of contrast they were going for.
Well, neither did the fashion designer, the token gay kid. That was the fashion designer. I forget the name of the character.
Fancy Pants?
Fancy Pants. That's the name of the character. That's his birth
I think
name.
it's Brian.
Yeah, probably.
Billy. His name was Billy.
Well, you all
Billy Fancy Pants.
Billy.
Yeah, because like that's the biggest the biggest hurdle that this film needs to overcome is the fact that like the movie is essentially Jack Black and a bunch of children. That's the cast of the film. And obviously these kids are not like trained actors by any regards. We'll get into this eventually, or I'm sure we're like, with like one notable exception, none of these kids went on to like any sort of like real acting careers after this. So it's basically Jack Black just like, he's just riffing. And that, I'm sure like to you, that's the charm of the film, right? Is that Jack Black is playing himself in this movie.
Yeah.
His character could be called Jack Black because that's just what he's doing. He's showing up and he's being himself.
Very, very true. It's one of the reasons why I kept following his career is because I loved him in this movie. And I do know that thinking about how majority of the kids went on to do anything pursuing acting or anything except like Miranda. That's it. For iCarly, I believe.
Yeah, and it's not like Miranda Cosgrove is some like giant celebrity. Like she was a Nickelodeon. She was on a really popular Nickelodeon. She was on 2 really popular Nickelodeon shows.
She in any other
Certainly
movies?
had a career. I don't know,
Probably.
She does. I was looking it up. She does like a talk show now called like, I think it's called Unstoppable or something like that. She highlights successful women in STEM careers.
Oh, that's kind of cool. We'll have
For
to
the
have her
show.
on.
That's neat. But yeah, I do remember when the time that it was coming out and there was all like this merchandise, advertising or something for it when I was in elementary school. I would have a bookmark that was like one of the kids in their normal school uniform on one side and the other side was their rock outfit.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
Do you remember which kid?
The blonde girl with the giant crazy, one of the background singers, the backup singers that had the big blonde pigtails.
Yeah.
Yeah, her.
It's kind of cool that even the like minor characters had bookmarks made out of them. Like all these kids got to be really famous for a hot second. And I think for the most part, like even though they are no longer in show business, these guys are all like, they grew up to be normal. One guy got arrested briefly for stealing guitars.
Wait,
and that was
fine.
the
That's cool.
guitar player from this movie.
Wild.
Yeah. But like, honestly, if I owned a guitar shop and the little boy who played guitar in School of Rock robbed me, I'd be like, yeah, those are your guitars. You go ahead and keep those.
Find them, bring them back.
And I would say
share
that
the
like
profits.
generally speaking, I don't think the movie like totally clears that hurdle of the fact that most of the cast is children. Number one, because there's so many kids, you kind of have to like flesh out like each individual kid, or they flesh out like most of the kids as having like some sort of like through line story in the film.
Right.
And I think it kind of like bogs down the story a bit. I think pacing wise and structure wise, the film kind of falls apart a little bit in that regard. And then there's also like really long scenes sometimes where it's like, sometimes it's just like really long takes of just Jack Black just riffing. And the kids are just sitting there looking at him while he's like playing guitar and he's like doing his like ad-libbing.
Are you talking about
stuff.
like the math song? Math.
Yeah, the math song is one of them.
Wonderful thing.
It's like, this is going on for a long time.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that I quote that too. So it depends on if you're entertained by it or not. And if you're entertained by it, you're going to quote it and you're going to remember it fondly.
And I think what makes the movie special is like the kids loved that riffing. Like you could see on their faces that they were having such a good time just watching Jack Black get
Yeah, they're like, this guy's ridiculous.
Yeah, like
It's like, oh, a clown.
that's basically like what sells the movie, in my opinion, is that all these kids are having so much fun and Jack Black is having so much fun that you can't help but have a good time. Yeah, those kids were, like you said, they were our age when we were children, so they are all now in their 30s as well. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's not great. Jack Black was Jack Black was 31 when this movie came out.
I don't think that's
What?
true. I looked that up. What? It was like 34. He was 34 when it came out, at the very least. They might have shot it when he was like
Yeah,
30.
my math might have been wrong. I don't know, but he was in his 30s.
There you go.
He was, we'll roughly say our age.
Yeah.
We're not 34 yet. So.
And really, like the whole theme of this movie is the idea of, I mean, it's the theme of Step Brothers. It's never don't lose your dinosaur, right? Mm-hmm. Don't lose like your childlike wonder of like the thing that you're interested in. Because I think the most interesting character in this movie is Mike White's character, Ned Schneebly, where he's someone that he used to be in like a rock band with Jack Black, but now he's like a substitute teacher. He's like domesticated.
His line is, I'm not a satanic sex god anymore, Dewey. I'm a working stiff. And that's cool.
That's right.
It is legit hilarious that like the hard-nosed bitchy girlfriend is played by Sarah Silverman, who is like an insanely like vulgar and over-the-top female comedian. Mm-hmm. That they couldn't get like a super like a more serious actress to like play that role. It kind of makes it a little goofy. Like Joan Cusack, who's like a legit like auteur actress, like she's great.
She killed it.
She's great as the principal, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure I thought that was Winona Ryder when I was a kid.
What?
Wrong.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's the lady from Beetlejuice. No, it is not.
Not okay.
I distinctly remember, and I am not exaggerating when anytime I hear Stevie Nicks on the radio, I think of this movie because of
Oh,
yeah.
we can't sing.
No,
because
no,
we'll
no,
get
no. But
demonetized.
because of
Song sounds like she's singing.
Tomorrow or whatever, you know, like the
Yeah.
That's the part that she does. I think of it every single time that I hear that song.
That's great. And she's really like the only other actor in this movie that gets to do this really like physical over the top type of comedy. Mm-hmm. And she's awesome. She's probably like the other highlight of the film, in my opinion.
Yeah, really interesting restraint from the filmmakers also to not make her a love interest to Jack Black.
So originally she was, and then they rewrote the part.
Yeah.
And then in the Broadway version of this, we'll get to that later, but this has been franchised to death. In the musical version, I think they end up together. I could be wrong.
Boo.
You don't like that, Becca?
No, I don't like that.
She's supposed to end up with Spider, the man
Yes.
who wears part of a leather jacket.
Yes. And he's like,
He wears
she's like,
very
are you warm?
he wears very low cut pants.
Yeah.
That man he's pushing the limits there around a bunch of children. I guess I'll bring up the fun fact now. The actor that plays Spider is now an attorney general in Texas.
What?
so funny.
No, I did not know this. I wonder what he thinks about this movie.
I'm sure he misses it. I think.
He like, my good days.
I'm sure now he's telling people, I'm not a satanic sex god anymore. I'm a working stiff, and that's
cool.
But yeah,
It's the Ned Schneebly that came out of this movie.
he went on to have an interesting career. The kids, a lot of the ones who actually played music and stuff, they went on to like have music careers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of them had like big bands, but I think they still play music. Unfortunately, the drummer, Freddie Jones, passed away a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and he was a drummer in a band.
Yeah.
And then the guitar player was like he played guitar. The keyboard player, I think like for a time stayed as a keyboard player.
Like a concert pianist.
Yeah, the girl that played the bassist, she became like a comedian, I think, right?
I'm not sure about that, but she does have a prominent like TikTok account.
No, I saw a video of her stand up. She does like a stand up with a guitar.
Hold on. They use they them pronouns now.
Okay.
They're non-binary now.
All right, so they have a stand up career.
Yes.
Interesting. I gotta look them up.
Shout out to Rivka Reyes. That is the performer. Yeah, they were the bassist. Originally, there was no bassist in this movie. This actor auditioned for the part of Summer, which went to Miranda Cosgrove.
Okay.
And they were like, well, we're going to go with Miranda Cosgrove, but we don't have a bassist, so we're gonna make it you.
Yeah, bass.
Shalom. We've got a bassist.
Bass is pretty important in a rock band.
Yeah, I just saw one of their TikToks. They said that, you know how at the end of the movie, it's all the kids like jamming and then each one gets a solo as they're being played out?
Yeah.
Tell me that was all improv.
No, there's no. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say there's no bass solo.
There's no bass solo. And this performer commented on that this year. And they said, yeah, the reason why, like, I did record a solo, and the reason why I got cut, and you can ask Jack Black, you can ask Mike White, and you can ask Rick, they called him Rick. You can ask Rick Linklater why this happened, and it's because it would make me too powerful. I started floating off the ground, and my eyes started glowing. And they had to destroy the footage.
Okay, I love them. I officially love them.
But yeah, generally speaking, most of these kids just went on to be like normal ass adults with careers.
Yeah, they have the same like jobs that my friends do.
Yeah, and you gotta imagine like this is just like the peak of like most of their lives. Like
That's early.
Yeah, they're the kids in the School of Rock. Like they're never gonna do something like cooler than that. Like they're gonna be able to show their kids like this movie and be like, look how fucking cool I was.
Yeah.
You're not gonna do anything remotely this cool.
This is my home video.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing where even though it's like their peak, I don't think they're like talking about the old days like they're losers now. I think they have fully happy lives.
I think, yeah.
Well, they did a 10-year reunion concert for the 10 year of this film, and I know that they're always like bugging Jack Black about trying to do a sequel. I guess we can talk about like the sequel and like the addition in the TV show and the Broadway musical. Like they've kind of tried to branch this into like a franchise that it hasn't really like taken hold though.
I mean, for someone that's a fan like me, I didn't even know any of that existed. I was always just like, this one-off movie.
This is a great one movie.
Exactly.
So there is a Broadway version that came out in 2015, and it ran for 4 years on Broadway, which is considered a success. There's also an Andrew Lloyd Webber production, who is probably the most famous or second most famous Broadway producer, singer-songwriter of all time. Mm-hmm. He did the score for this, and then it was written by Julian Fellows, who is the showrunner of Downton Abbey. So they went back and they made a musical version, which was successful. I think it made over $160 million at the Broadway box office, and then it had a West End run and touring and all of that, and now schools get to perform it. So successful musical. They had a TV show on Nickelodeon that ran for 3 seasons. Any show that gets to 3 seasons, also a success. So even if these things were outside of our radar, I would say it was a success. Also, this musical came out the same year that Hamilton came out. So when they had to perform at the Tonys up against Hamilton, Dewey had to give this speech, the same one that he gave in the movie, where he's like, guys, we didn't come here to win. We came here to put on a kick-ass show. Because they knew that Hamilton was going to take home every prize that night.
Yeah.
It's bad timing.
They should have got a standing ovation. Or an encore.
Yeah, they should have been like, Lin-Manuel Miranda, here's your Tony. And then everyone should have chanted, School of Rock, School of Rock.
Perfect.
But yeah, the TV show ran for a little while. I meant to watch an episode, but I didn't. But I did read the plot summaries. Yeah. It's basically a retelling of the movie. They switched the races of a couple characters. They got rid of the bassist character and they just had Tamika as the lead singer and bassist. And they also added a bunch of love stories to the show, it looks like. So Summer and Freddie were like together, and Tamika and...
Did it go for like further into depth about the kids? Is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah, it did. And the musical does as well. I think like almost every kid kind of gets highlighted in a song or something. So yeah, it's definitely a new way to experience School of Rock, which I think is cool. But they've also talked about a sequel many times. So originally they were working on one sort of right after this came out. I think it was like Rock Around America or something, where he was going to tour the States teaching kids music, and that didn't really go off. I read somewhere, and this might just be a rumor, that Mike White, the writer, got pissed off at the portrayal of the gay student. He thought it was too campy and like a little bit offensive, and so he didn't want to work with Richard Linklater again. But that might not be true. It's just something that I read as I was reading trivia about this film.
I mean, that character was also very quotable.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people today like that character a lot. And he's like,
You're tacky and I hate you.
yeah.
And that guy,
Can you see me after class?
yeah, I believe he is gay in real life.
So that kid did come out afterwards, but so I can see why Mike White was pissed off, because originally that character was supposed to be another like tech kid, someone doing like the light shows and stuff, and then they found this kid, and
They're like, oh, this kid's gay as fuck.
Richard Linklater went to the
Give him
kid's
the fashion
parents.
stuff.
He went to the kid's parents and he said, "Oh, your son's gay. That's great.
Oh no.
We're gonna write this whole part for him. We're gonna rewrite the whole thing." And so the parents were like cool with it, and
Good.
the kid came out afterwards, so it was all fine.
That poor kid was forcefully removed from the closet to be in a movie.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's like, even though that it's a very much like an archetypal, campy portrayal, I don't know if I would say it's offensive. I would say because they don't make fun of him. He's just being himself. And they're like, yeah, here is your strength. You are aligned now. We're going to use their strength
For
the cause and join the team.
I would agree with you. And like the way that it's done in the film is the kid is like, can I not be like a security or a roadie? Can I do fashion instead? Can I be the designer? And then Jack Black is like, of course you can, fancy pants. Get over there.
Like,
and so
you can.
it's all love and like support in this movie, which is great. Speaking of kids being forcefully removed, there was a kid that got replaced within 1 week of shooting this film. And so I have the oral history of School of Rock up on my computer over there. So I was reading this today, and they talked about it for a while. Richard Linklater was like, yeah, I had to fire a child. And he was like, the kid just wasn't working out. And then all the kids who are also in the oral history were like, I hated that guy. He was such a dick.
How bad was this kid?
So what
You said 1 week?
Yeah, so what happened was this kid tried to make everything a competition. The kid would be like, oh, I have more lines than you do, or I'm going to try and get more lines than you.
He's getting drunk on set.
He's mad with power.
He's doing coke in his trailer.
There was, like, maybe the kid that replaced him was maybe smoking weed. I don't remember. I was reading the oral history really fast, but it was the redhead kid was the one that ended up replacing him. So there was another child before that, and then that kid got fired. And Richard Linklater still talks about it today. Like, if someone's kind of underestimating him as, like, a hard-ass director, if they're not, like, listening to him, he'll go up to them and be like, I fired a kid on School of Rock. Do you think you're safe? Yeah.
Do you think you're safe?
Fired a 10-year-old. I told his ass to go back to regular school.
No one is safe.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned the TV show, because I think in a way this story might work better as a TV show, honestly. Because there's so many characters that inevitably, like, certain characters are going to be underserved in their storylines. This movie's only like, what, hour 45, something like that. So it goes by relatively fast, and the movie doesn't have like great like 3-act structure to it, in my opinion. And you also have like all of the kids have this side plot with their parents, which we don't see the parents until like very late in the movie. Is like the first
couple of them we do.
Yeah, we see them like tangentially, or like we see we see the guitarist like dad like being
yelling at him.
But the parents are like a giant piece of the puzzle when it comes to these like preppy kids, and like part of the reason why they don't like get interested in, you know, rock music, you would think that is like they're being held back a little bit by their parents. They're being strict. And once the parents see their kids like step out of the shell, then like they're proud of them. It's like a great moment at the end of the movie that like the parents and the principal are like watching them, watching the kids have a good time. I mean, Jack Black should probably still be arrested at the end of this movie. Let's not get it twisted. But you would think like, in a television show, you could do like entire episodes or like portions of an episode like just on one of the kids and like their family dynamic, and like spread the wealth out a little bit. And in this movie, like some of the kids like are underserved, and I think part of that is like, at least for like, I watched this movie 2 days ago. I don't remember any of the kids' names. I like remotely know like what some of them look like.
Yeah.
I know Miranda Cosgrove. I just call her Miranda Cosgrove though. I don't remember what her character's name is.
Well, I know the guitarist, the main guitar kid is Zach.
Yep, Zach Attack Mooneyham.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like when you identify him, you're like, oh, the guitarist or the drummer or the bass player.
Yeah, I mean, but that happens with like any ensemble film. You might not know every character's name. I couldn't name a ton of Tarantino characters because they're always chock full of A-list stars. And even if I know the A-list actors, I'm not going to remember their character names.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The kids did like a really wonderful job. Like they definitely did a great job casting them, especially the musicians in the movie. Do you have any interest in watching the TV show? No. Yeah, what about
I didn't know it existed, so a little, yeah.
A little? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll watch it after this. Why do you think the kids mostly stopped acting after this?
You know, it's tough to say. I think it's kind of twofold. I mean, one, the kids that were the musicians, it sounded like they were more musicians than actors.
I was going to say the same thing.
I know some of the kids like were actors though, and some of them like were like minor like TV actors like in early adulthood and stuff like that. Like they went for it and it didn't work.
Yeah, the one that was on your bookmark, she has like her own Wikipedia page as an actress, so she had some career after this.
Yeah, so some of them went for it and it just didn't work, which is, you know, it's unfortunate, but I mean, it's not uncommon. I mean, even popular Nickelodeon actors didn't really go on to do much. I mean, who's like the most like famous Nickelodeon actor like post Nickelodeon?
Ariana
It's like Ariana Grande and then like a giant gap for number two.
Yeah, Ariana Grande, then maybe Drake Bell.
Yeah, Drake Bell for not the best reasons.
Well, here's
maybe.
the thing.
And then Josh Peck.
I don't know
Josh
like
Peck.
what shows were on Nickelodeon, what shows were on other ones, Disney Channel,
But
I guess.
Dylan's not specifically talking about like Nickelodeon.
Okay.
Just like, well, actually, I guess he is.
then
Well, this is a
Disney Channel stars.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Nickelodeon production.
Right, because I'm thinking like Miley Cyrus, you know,
and that was
like
Disney, yeah.
that was Disney. So I was like, I didn't know.
Like Zoe 101,
Yeah.
iCarly, which obviously Summer went on to do.
Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah, that's
too.
Disney.
Yeah, all Disney. Apparently, I know Disney.
Yeah, but I mean, like for every like Zendaya or like Miley Cyrus or like child actors that become like big celebrities, it's way more frequent that you're going to see kids that they just grow up to be like normal ass people. It just is what it is.
Yeah, which is good and fine.
And that's cool.
And that's cool. If we were to start a band, what instrument would each of us play?
Drums. Yeah.
What, you want to be the drummer?
Oh,
Probably
you've got the, if you're not watching this, she's got the Spider-Gwen look going on right now.
Is Gwen Stacy a drummer?
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the Spider-Verse movies in a while, so
It came out last year.
And also, it's in the comics.
Oh, he's a fake fan. He doesn't read those.
I'm sorry, everybody. I'm not enough of a fan of the Spider-Verse movies.
No, I would be.
It's my mistake.
I would do drums because I
Because you
feel
have
like
an
that.
undercut.
No, that I don't actually have that, but one could wish. I used to. So you've got a good.
I can
memory.
only see this side of your face right now. I can't see what's going on the other side of the part.
Normal. No, I just want to hit things.
I remember
why.
those days. Dylan, what about you?
Probably on security detail. Be a roadie. No,
You wouldn't want to do the fashion.
I'd probably be the bass player.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and I would just like
Slap at the bass.
Yeah, so we'd have a full band. We're lucky. Like
Who would sing?
probably you.
Probably Pat, or our friend Pat, who's I think standing outside the
door.
It's like
a cat trying to.
it's like
So yeah,
it's like the alien from Signs, like putting his hand under the
he
door.
did walk in earlier, and
Not
I I was mean. I mouthed to him like,
He said he wanted to sit in.
no, I did not know that. I thought he didn't know what was going
Becca
on.
looked at him and she was like,
No, but then he was like, what? No, and then he walked away, and I was just like, bye.
If you're curious about what Pat looks and sounds like, you can listen to him on our Dune 1984 David Lynch episode.
yeah, we had two Pats on that podcast.
Yeah.
No, I feel bad. I didn't know he was given permission to come in.
Nah, forget it. It's too late.
Fine, it's fine.
Damn.
We'll cut that out.
No,
No, we won't.
keep it in. Cut that.
So we'd have a full band. Do you think we would be better than these children?
No.
I don't think so either.
You think these kids are actually good?
Yes.
Yeah. If they were
Yeah.
good when they were 10, they're good now.
I don't know. I watched the 10-year anniversary concert, and these people should be like 10 years better at their instruments at that point. And I don't know. Maybe they're
Well, maybe they did. Maybe it could have been that they, because I used to be able to play the piano.
yeah, it's possible
I
they're
don't
rusty.
know around now. So, Could have been like that.
I asked this because I spent like the better part of like the last like 2 days watching a lot of YouTube videos from there's a YouTube channel called School of Rock, which is videos like music videos covers from School of Rocks like around the country. I was watching videos from them as well as cover songs from the O'Keefe Music Foundation, which is another like School of Rock thing where they train kids to be like rock stars, and they're so fucking good. Those kids, they are insanely talented. Like it's like blow your fucking doors off. They're so good at their instruments. And it makes School of Rock the movie look way worse in comparison.
Well, I guess, yeah.
It's not meant to be compared to other things.
Yeah, I understand it's a movie.
Yeah.
I think like a little bit of like the original songs are kind of corny, but like I think they're trying to strike that balance between these are kids and these are rock stars. Whereas if you're watching these videos on YouTube and they're covering like really hard rock songs, of course you're going to see their technical proficiencies and all of that.
I will say too, I partially think this is kind of like a movie for kids.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, you don't say. This Nickelodeon production.
Yeah, yes. I think it might be. So the songs that I'm going to keep coming back to, like having to like be quotable. Like if it was a more complex song, I wouldn't remember the lyrics to this day that I learned as a kid that I could quote by heart, So
yeah, that's
I don't know. That could be the reason.
Do you guys have any interest in watching the musical version of this?
I mean, I'm not a big Broadway guy. You're the Broadway guy.
I don't know if
I almost watched it today, but I just didn't have time.
Maybe curiosity if I have the time.
Yeah,
like that's about it.
Yeah, I was going to see if there was a rip of it on our Plex account, and I would have watched it. Interesting fact about this movie, they used the Led Zeppelin song, Immigrant Song, which is... Yeah, so apparently Led Zeppelin was very, like... restrictive of people using this song in their music.
They don't like their songs in general.
I know what you're talking about.
TV.
Yeah.
So it was really hard for School of Rock to get this song. And what they had to do was Jack Black, as they were recording the finale at the concert hall, Jack Black had to make this plea. And he was like, Led Zeppelin, we need your song. And they had every audience member start shouting Lords of Rock, Led Zeppelin, and chanting it. In like while Jack Black is screaming at the camera, and that convinced Led Zeppelin to let them use this song. The interesting thing about that to me is that now Led Zeppelin won't stop letting people use Immigrant Song.
Yeah,
we just saw it in Shrek 3, which you can check out our Shrek episode. It's also in Thor. Yeah, like they're using it all the time.
Very fitting in Thor, though. Like it's thematically
less fitting in. No, it's pretty fitting in Shrek 3 when Snow White starts singing it.
Yes, actually.
But I'm just saying, this kind of broke the floodgates. Like, Led Zeppelin was like, you can't use our music. And then they saw the paycheck from School of Rock, and they were like, hey, everyone, please buy Immigrant Song.
Very good.
Cool. So, do you guys have any fun facts about this movie, or we can get into the rating of it?
I mean, I don't know about fun facts. That was one I was actually going to share, but you beat me to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One fun fact I did like was Mike White, who's the writer on this film, who plays Ned. He was on a season of Survivor, and he got second place in Survivor, which is great.
That is a fun fact.
He's such like a dweeby looking guy. I'm like imagining him with his shirt off on an island.
I was trying to look up his filmography. I was like, have I seen this guy in something else? And maybe I saw him in Survivor. Like, I'm a big Survivor fan, because he does kind of have like a look to him that you feel like he'd be good in like a lot of different roles where he's like, like a nerdy guy.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, he's very much like a writer first and then every other type of filmmaker second.
Yeah.
But he was great in this part. Like, he really sold what he was trying to do.
Yeah, and I like that the movie concludes with like he's just a good friend to Jack Black, even though at times it probably shouldn't be. He got his identity stolen. That's the whole plot of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, that was questionable, but like he knew there was a reason why he kept Dewey around, and it was because it was what you said earlier, holding on to that dinosaur. That's what this movie is about. Like, it's striking that balance because Jack Black has to learn responsibility and becoming an adult, but he also has to do it in a way where he doesn't give up his like childlike innocence. And I think that's something that like we strive for throughout our whole lives, is to like hold on to that, but also get to grow. So it is a pretty great film.
You think they're violating any zoning laws by hosting the School of Rock in their apartment at the end of the movie?
I don't know. You're an architect. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, that's where my mind went to immediately.
Oh, you mean the after school program?
Yeah, it's in their apartment.
We don't know how much time passed. They could have got permits.
I'm also pretty sure you can just, like, I know there's a lot of music teachers in Philly that just do it out of their apartments.
They got zoning variants for it.
Yeah.
Well, this movie was shot in New York, I believe. So yeah, maybe it was cool there. Who knows?
Maybe it's cool there.
Yeah, I don't have many other fun facts. I just think it's really funny that the driving forces of this movie are a man named Jack Black and Mike White. It's just two rhymey names of opposite colors, and then there was like a perfect combination.
I'm curious. Is this Jack Black's best movie?
Yeah, I mean Jack Black said it was, so I'll go.
So like you straight up, this is his best.
He's got
his
some
best
good
work.
ones. He's got some other good ones. Like one of the things that I thought maybe we should talk about is Kung Fu Panda, but that's a lot of voice acting work. But like at the same time, thinking about Poe the Panda, it's like that is just also Jack Black.
And there would be no Kung Fu Panda without School of Rock.
But I also really like Shallow Hal.
Okay.
That's a different movie.
That one has like a 17% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I you know me, I love bad movies. I love Catwoman, so I'm gonna love Shallow Hal.
You'll have to come back and talk about Catwoman.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about him next year when he's starring in the Minecraft movie that's coming out.
Yeah, we'll do a whole Jack Black.
That's currently shooting.
Wow, I did not know that.
That guy, he's just cashing checks. He's in the Jumanji movies.
Those are good too.
Those are really good.
I don't know if they're his best movies though.
No. But he did make a killing as Bowser this past year.
Is he in he's in Tropic Thunder, right?
Yeah, he is in Tropic Thunder. Yeah, this guy's had a killer career. And, you know, he had smaller parts before this, but this was really his breakout role. Good on School of Rock. He was also in an episode of Community.
Was he?
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah, he was. He really wanted to join the study group, and that was like the gang being exclusive for the first time. They were like, I don't know about this guy. Jack Black, we like him.
We like you, Jack. Watch the podcast, Jack.
So before we can get into whether this movie is underrated or overrated, we have to talk about how it's currently rated. So Becca, we use a scale of 1 to 10. You have to take into consideration a lot of things, but what we're asking is, how do you think the public views School of Rock?
This is an objective rating that we're trying to hit.
It's not how you feel about it.
It's our baseline.
About what you think other people feel about it. And to give you some context, this movie has an approval rating of 92% and an audience score of...
it was in the 60s, right?
No.
It was a weird split between the Rotten Tomatoes scores.
Well, Metacritic has it at 82. I don't have the audience scores in front of me. Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 stars out of 4.
Roger Ebert liked it.
Yeah. So with that in mind, what do you think people think about it? And you also have to consider, like, if there are people you know that haven't seen it that you think would like it, all of that stuff.
I mean, just off of what I know of people that have seen it, I haven't had someone say that they didn't like it, of various different age ranges and generations. There are some things that people go, about, like, it is a niche kind of comedy, just like any kind of comedy is specific to one type of person. Like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this kind of movie versus that one. But personally, based on the public ratings and just my own personal experience, not as a biased thing, I'd say like 8 out of 10 kind of thing. Like, it's pretty high up there.
Yeah, Dylan.
But it's not perfect.
Yeah, I think I was gonna like 8 or like 8.5.
Yeah,
is where I was thinking, somewhere in that range. I mean, if we're talking about, like, this is Jack Black's, like, best movie he's ever made, and he's saying that as well, and this is like an A-list actor we're talking about here, a guy that does like a lot of comedies. If this is the best comedy he's ever made, then it's got to be, it's got to be high up there. And I think the critic scores back that up. I think the box office backs that up. It made what, like quadruple its budget, something like that.
Yeah, it made like $130 million off of like a $30 million
nice
budget.
Yeah, which is that's the biggest surprise as to why they didn't make a sequel, considering, like,
I don't know if it was like a lot of movies these days, a lot of things get like, sequel, just over and over, sequel.
Yeah, the number one indicator of if a film is going to get a sequel or not is, did the first one make money? It has nothing to do with the story progression, none of that
Has
shit.
it always been that way? Like, dawn of movies?
Yeah, generally speaking.
Okay.
If the first film makes a lot of money, they'll make a franchise out of it.
Nice.
And they'll keep milking that cow regardless of film quality, regardless of what the audience thinks. If it's making money, they don't give a shit.
They did franchise this.
Shout out to Ghostbusters.
Sequel. Yeah.
They took different creative directions than...
Yeah, they made a multiverse of
there you
School
go.
of Rock.
There you go. There you go.
I think I would agree with you guys. I would say this is like an 8 to 8.5, so we'll call it an 8.25, as objective as we can be about how we think audiences feel about it.
8.37.
8.75. You're our guest, so... So, an 8.375. Dylan, you have the task of arguing that this movie is overrated, so you think it does not deserve that 8.375 rating that we have given it. What do you got?
So I think the main overrated argument for this film, you got to start with Jack Black, because this is a Jack Black movie. And I would say that he really is like just carrying the movie on his back to such an extent with his like enthusiasm. And he's so like magnetic in his performance that it allows you to kind of like overlook all of like the actual filmmaking problems that are going on here. We talked about it a little bit. Like the cat is a very large cast that is mostly children, and like let's keep it 100. Like the kids aren't like amazing actors by any stretch, right? Jack Black is doing like 80% of the work in any scene that he's acting up against these kids, and you know, that's why they're having these like long takes of, you know, the camera pointing directly at Jack Black and it's pointing at the back of the kids' heads, because they know that this is like Jack Black the movie, that's all this is. And they kind of like work this like framework around it of like him being like inspirational to these children, and like, you know, he's learning stuff from the kids and the kids are learning stuff from him. But when you break it down, it's like its base elements, like the film, it doesn't work to the same level as I think, you know, we look back on it, you know, in our minds. You know, it's interesting. You said you only saw this like a couple of years ago, but I feel like most people saw this when they were younger, saw this when they were kids. And we talk about this all the time, Jason. Like when you see a movie during those formative years like that, you get those like nostalgia glasses.
Yep.
Yeah, like there's nothing like anybody could ever say to you about like this movie like not being good, because like you saw it at an age where you loved it, and so now you watch it as an adult and you also love it. I mean, it also helps like for us specifically, like we were the age of the kids when this movie came out, and now we're like close to Jack Black's age in the movie, so we get to see like both ends of the coin a little bit. I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's like an incredible movie, and that's how it's rated. I mean, it's like in the 90s on Rotten Tomatoes right now. That puts it in like the upper echelons of films, and like this is just a comedy film, and it's like Jack Black like trying his darndest. I mean, I know he got like, I think he got like a Golden Globe nomination for this, right? Like a Satellite Award nomination. So, you know, he got like award recognition for this performance, because like, yeah, he's doing it all on his own. The movie is not doing him any favors. The kids, the story structure, the film pacing. I mean, what are the first, second, third acts? Like, what are we doing in this? Like, they're just chugging along. The next scene is like them in the classroom, or like him like out with the principal. It's a bit disjointed. I found myself like kind of getting a little bored during some scenes, especially the scenes like that were quieter. You know, I can't imagine like kids like super enjoy like any of those like more like introspective scenes like that. But yeah, I think it's good. But when it comes to, you know, the rating we gave it, 8.25, is a very high score. And I just don't think it's on that level. I think like this being a Nickelodeon production kind of like puts that in perspective a little bit. Like, I don't think this is what this movie's trying to be. I think it's like a pedestal that it's gotten put on after all of these years, and, you know, fairly or unfairly, you know, I just don't think it's ever reaching that.
Okay. Yeah, I would say I disagree with the fact that you think the kids aren't pulling their weight. I think the kids are great. And I think the fact that they're not trained actors, but just kids reacting to like this being a part of this film, I think that is like a huge part of what makes this such a good movie.
Like they're not like stiff bad actors. Like, I read lines now, you know, they are legitimately being more natural as opposed to overacting. You know, there's no overacting, which is nice.
If anything, it's like, oh, they're giggling a lot because they're not trained, but the giggling just makes it funnier for like kids and for adults. And they're all like, they're really good at what they're doing too. I think they are good actors. Like the scene where Jack Black talks to Tamika about like they both have like body weight image issues, and he kind of says like, you know, I like to eat. Is that such a crime? And then it like makes her smile. Like that's such a moving scene, especially for anyone who deals with like body image issues like that. You didn't necessarily bring it up in this argument, but you said earlier that like each kid kind of getting their own moving scene with Jack Black kind of bogged it down. But I think those are like the best parts of the movie. Is like him
That's how he grew as a character, is because of those moments.
It's him growing and the kids growing at the same time, which is always great. Like him having that heart-to-heart with Zach where he's like, your dad, he doesn't say your dad's a bully, but he's like, how do we deal with bullies? And he teaches him how to do that.
Does it very subtly.
Yeah, and like when Lawrence is like, I'm not cool enough, he's like, what?
It's my favorite Lawrence quote.
Yeah, of course.
And they're really cool handshake.
Yeah.
Let's rock today.
Yeah, I think all of that, those are like the best parts in my opinion. So I think all of that is really good. My main argument for why it's underrated is just that like this came out around the same time as like Anchorman, Step Brothers. We talked about a lot of this on our Will Ferrell podcast, but these are like comedy films that are really beloved and viewed as like the seminal comedies of the early 2000s. I don't think that School of Rock gets put into that pantheon largely because it's viewed as a children's movie. And I think it's a movie that transcends that genre. It sounds like you don't agree with that, but I think it definitely is more than just a kid's movie.
I mean, they say too, like a lot of modern day cartoons that are made are like, yeah, they're for kids, but adults can watch them too. Like, have you ever seen Bluey? It's a great show.
I have not seen Bluey. People tell me this all the time. I know so many like millennial parents that are like, I have a small child now, but you have to watch Bluey. And I'm like,
and I'm not a parent, and I love Bluey.
Becca, you're exposing yourself as somebody who spends time around small children.
I mean, even if I didn't, I loved Steven Universe. Like that's another one where it's like, oh yeah, this is a kid's show, but it really, anyone that just loves a good story and good characters, you can watch it. So I feel like that it transcends that in the same way of School of Rock, where it's like, yeah, it could be geared towards kids, where a kid can understand the movie and get entertained by it and like be inspired by it. But then like an adult would be like, Jeff.
Yeah, I think for a Nickelodeon film, like this is definitely heads and shoulders above a lot of the other ones. Just a list I have in front of me of Nickelodeon movies. The Last Airbender, terrible movie. And this movie is way better than that. Yeah. This movie kind of proves that a Nickelodeon movie is not just a Nickelodeon movie. Like, you really see the range there, and this movie transcends all of that.
Well, the interesting thing about it is that, you know, if this movie was so good and is so successful, like, why didn't they make 4 of these?
I told you, it's because Mike White didn't want to work with Richard Linklater.
Yeah, like, who gives a shit? Like, the studio doesn't care if the writers come back.
And the studio is still greenlighting it. The Jack Black said in 2023, yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, so it's just...
Yeah, it's 20 years later, though. I mean, even though, we've talked about other franchises that take forever to make sequels, but like this movie was the highest grossing musical comedy of all time for a while.
Until Pitch Perfect.
Until Pitch Perfect came along. And the Pitch Perfect films, they just made several of them because they were like, these things are printing money.
Oh, you know who wrote Pitch Perfect 3? Mike White.
I was about to say, Mike White.
My guy loves musical comedies. So I know we rag on like franchises a lot in this pod, but they are kind of like indicative of like how the studios feel about the films, and you know the fact that they kind of just like let this one sit on its own from like a film fan standpoint. It's probably for the best, right?
Yeah,
because how many franchises like they start making sequels and the sequels are trash?
And it ruins it. Yeah. I would not. Honestly, as a big fan of the first one, I like it as a standalone. I didn't know that there was a show. I didn't know there was a musical. I'm honestly a little bummed that there was a show and a musical. I'm just like, oh no, what did they do to it?
I should also note that like it's probably too late to make a sequel to this movie, at least like a direct sequel.
Yeah,
like they basically have to do some sort of like soft reboot and like tell the story again, essentially.
Yeah, with new kids and stuff.
Because the kids are just too old. Like you can't bring those same people back.
A reboot, not a sequel, but a remake. You think?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, you probably have to do it with Jack Black, right? I was
about to say.
And like a whole new group of kids, maybe.
But I disagree with the idea that sequels are like the tell-all of how people feel about this movie. The fact that Andrew Lloyd Webber was like, hey, I loved this movie. I made Phantom of the Opera. Let me make School of Rock the musical. That tells you a lot about the pedigree of the people who love this film.
High pedigree.
It's high pedigree. Yeah.
I think it's a movie that lends itself well to like Broadway adaptation just because of the nature of it. I mean, does the Broadway show, do you know if it's like songs, like cover songs? Like
no, it's not a jukebox musical. Or they might have a couple of songs from like artists that we've heard on the radio. But for the most part, it's like original music by Andrew Lloyd Webber and lyricist. Cool. Yeah. But yeah, ultimately, I think that this was franchised out like the perfect amount. A fairly successful musical and a 3-season Nickelodeon sitcom.
That's all it needs.
Pretty solid. It could stop there. I think people like it, but I feel like, I mean, I didn't watch it till 2 years ago. I think there's a lot of film fans who maybe wrote this off, like if they didn't see it as a kid, who would really enjoy it today. So for that reason, I'm going to say underrated.
Yeah, it's difficult to say because, yeah, the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is like a lot lower than the critic score, which makes me think like maybe this is a lot of people that are watching it like grown up, and it just
like for the first time.
Yeah, and it just doesn't hit the same way. Like I understand like you enjoyed it, but it's possible that like, you know, it's a film that has that like childlike charm to it. And I mean, I could see like as an adult, like you watching Jack Black's performance in this and be, like you said, he's just a clown. Like he's just a goofball the entire fucking movie, and that's it.
And that's one of the things is it is definitely nostalgic. Like if I saw a movie for the first time, an actor that I didn't know that performed like that as an adult, I would probably be like, this is kind of stupid. I honestly would. I wouldn't think it was clever or anything like that. But because as a child, that was one of the first things I saw of Jack Black. And then I grew up loving Jack Black just as an actor and musician and performer. And then I look back and I go like, there he is in his classic role.
I mean, it is his classic role.
There he goes. So yeah, it fits.
Yeah, we can come to a consensus that like a lot of this love for the movie that people have is nostalgia based. But Dylan, are you sticking with overrated?
Yeah, I think it's a little overrated. Like, what was it? Or 8.25? I think it probably
8.375.
Yes,
I think
get it right.
I think it rests like as like a 7, like a really solid 7, where it's like it's a good movie you can like watch like with your kids or like your nieces and nephews or whatever. This is not highbrow comedy. This is not like that deep. But I also don't think it's trying to be. I think Richard Linklater's made other movies that go deeper than this, that explore childhood.
I feel like it's definitely not that deep, but it is deeper than like an Adam Sandler comedy movie.
Oh
of
yeah,
that time.
for sure. And it's deeper than Shallow Hal also.
Yeah.
Shallow Hal is a movie. Shallow Hal is a movie that has not aged well at all. It arguably did age well.
I will be honest, I haven't watched it in a long time, so I might have to blame my words on that. But I do remember watching it and liking it at the time, and knowing that that George Costanza was in it from Seinfeld.
Yeah, I mean, if you want like, you want some like questionable like ableism, fat phobia, transphobia,
maybe yeah,
all in one movie.
Oh, that's valid.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, just her. Just all right.
It's crazy that she was in it.
Has not aged well, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Was that after Royal Tenenbaums? Was that like...
I'm not sure.
That's crazy.
But you know who was great in that movie? Jack Black.
I believe it, yeah. And I'm sure he sold like the like emotional scenes in that too. I don't know. Jack Black's really good. For me, I'm saying that this movie is just a solid 8. You and I both gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd, and thus, if we came up with the objective rating of 8.375, and I'm calling it an 8, I'm also saying that it's slightly over.
Traitor.
Becca, how are you? Okay. Every time we hang out.
Traitor. Betrayal, treachery.
Becca, what are your feelings towards this? What's your consensus or your final thoughts? Overrated or underrated?
I'll go a little bit higher and say 8.5.
So you think it's underrated still?
Yeah.
Good.
I think it's good.
Stick to your guns.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong answers to this. Yeah,
it's all subjective.
Yeah, it's pretty made up what we do in this hot studio.
We talking about our fancy.
You need a fan in here.
1 to 10 scale. There's a single vent.
It's right there.
That's the entire ventilation in this room.
Yeah, we have the AC on.
I was about to. I did just suggest you get a fan, but then I'm like, the noise might be a thing.
Oh yeah, you can.
Also, we have the PC that's over there that's already blowing tons of heat into the room. It's like a space heater.
It's kind of nice.
Does anyone have any final thoughts about School of Rock?
Check out those YouTube channels I was talking about. School of Rock, it's just called School of Rock on YouTube, and the O'Keefe Music Foundation. If you like watching like rock covers on YouTube, there's some of the best rock covers just like straight up. The kids are incredible. And they usually go with like ensembles too. Like they'll take a band where the original song is like a 4-person band, and they'll have like 9 people. They'll have like multiple singers and like multiple guitar players. So they harmonize it really well. It's cool.
It does sound cool. Great. Becca, anything else?
Nah.
Nice. All right, so that's going to be it for this episode. Becca, do you have anything to plug?
I wish I did. I'm working on, getting my own art portfolio back up online.
Nice.
It's been a while.
You still have the Behance?
I do. It's very outdated though.
We'll put a link.
Yeah, I'm
we'll
working
put a link
on
in the
that.
description.
We're linking the doobly-doo, as I say.
Cool. So that'll be it for this week's episode. Thank you for watching. Please check us out on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. You can join our Discord where we rank every movie we see. You can see our Letterboxd reviews. It's a really fun place. And check out our Patreon where you can support us and get some bonus features, early access. For myself, for Dylan, for Becca, thank you so much for watching. We will see you at the movies.
Bye.